Hi, listener. This is From Ideology to Unity, a spiritual journey where we let go of ego and ideological doctrine in favor of meaning, purpose, and unity as a whole. I'm here with Reinhard Flatischler. Well, I'm not here with him, but I'm talking to him. He's a renowned musician and composer. He's developed his innovative and distinctive method of music by studying with shamans and masters worldwide, originally to cure his asthma with the healing power of music. From this, he developed the method of Taketina, and he has a project of music called Mega Drums. He's got quite a lot of bands too, so hopefully you'll find him interesting. He focuses on the power of rhythm, which is pretty interesting to me. And how are you doing then?
Hello, very good. Greetings from Vienna.
Ah, yeah. So I'm near Windsor myself.
Mhm.
What's your connection with lions?
Oh, I'm a lion astrologically. Then, when I had a real difficult time in my life through a divorce, where almost everything broke apart, the lion heart came up, which is that heart that is really not kind of intimidated by any kind of threat, but takes any challenge as an opportunity. And so since that stays with me, the Lionheart.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool figure historically, I suppose.
Yeah, I have a really big connection to that. Also, my totem is a lion when I worked with my shamanic teacher. So lions come back to me again and again.
I'm a Leo as well.
Okay.
I mean,
Leo,
we could
Leo.
go into star signs if you want. Is there a connection between star signs and your music, would you say?
Well, I wouldn't know that. What I really got intrigued when you said getting out of the ego is one of the kind of core values of your podcast because rhythm was, and that's my subject, was since humanity is on the planet, rhythm had this function. So if you
Right.
see people in the ancient traditions, in the indigenous people doing their 3 days ritual just with rhythm and dancing, it's not because they had so much time and didn't know what to do else, but it is when the ego surrenders to something larger than me and my little story. And kids were right away part of that and grew up in that environment, which of course is not happening now. And that's the reason why Taketina is so kind of this work brings you back to that knowledge. And yeah, we don't have that anymore. But rhythm, if you become one with rhythm, there is no place for the egoic structure. There is you as an expression, but no egoic structure.
Wow. Yes, it sounds like it's a sort of universal, primal thing that we instinctively recognize, even though we're being out of sync with it in our current modern society.
Well, you can look at that way that everything in our life is rhythm. If you look at the color, it's a frequency, which is a rhythm. If you look at your heartbeat, it's a rhythm. If you look at your breathing, it's a rhythm. You walk in rhythm. And anytime a rhythm in the body gets distorted, you get sick. This is what all the physicians I've been doing research told me. The favorite transportation tool for information is rhythm. So if the rhythm is disrupted, information inside the body cannot flow in the right way. Maybe hormones, maybe something else. So to resynchronize ourselves, on the one hand, is a real beautiful practice to stay healthy. On the other hand, of course, as we already touched on it, it brings you out of me and my story, it brings you out of compulsive thinking, which is a part of me and my story, overthinking and overthinking these problems again and again and making them bigger in this way, of course. So rhythm, not every rhythm, but a rhythm practice. And all the rhythm practices, if you look from the ancient tradition, have a simplicity and a complexity element in it. And that's the same thing in Taketina. You have 3 layers, the steps, the claps, and the voice. And each of those layers is a simple rhythmic layer. But if you put them together, and because they're all different, out of simplicity arises complexity, and therefore it's a mirror of life.
Right. So it's an emergence, just like in nature.
Yeah. And then, of course, Taketina also works with chaos phases. This was the biggest revelation, because I had the question, is everyone actually rhythmical? This was me being a classically trained pianist. I came to India and everything changed. Learning tabla, I didn't find anything I learned in piano. The terms were different. The approaches to what they saw were different. So my question came, is everyone having access to rhythm? Is rhythm in India something different than in Europe? And then I found these primal rhythmic movements. This is actually the inaudible waves that you create with your playing. And that's the same for everyone. Now, to put this as an experience, primal rhythmic movement is a pulse, it's a cycle, it's a subdivision, all very simple movements.
Scientifically, what wave is it? What frequency is it?
Oh, if I play something for you on any instrument, let's see, I stop and that goes on. Whatever I do, there is a resonation. And that resonation is the primal rhythmic movement that carries my creation of sounds, whatever I do on the piano, on the violin, on the drum, whatever. So if you are able to put people in the physical experience of primal rhythmic movements, that is where everyone is connected to nature, to music. It all comes together there. But then I hit a point where, how do people really fall into that? And my answer that I found is to create a process where they can lose the rhythm and find the rhythm and lose the rhythm and find the rhythm in cascades over and over again, till they finally land on the real ground where they're carried by rhythm, or where they are the rhythm.
So does it help people get into a meditative state?
Absolutely. Of course. This is a meditative state. This is deep meditation. Deep meditation. I've been in a Korean Zen monastery for 9 months. It was a great time. I learned drumming there, but we did at least 9 hours of sasen, of sitting meditation. And this was pretty hard to distinguish. Am I dreaming? Am I thinking? Am I still? Am I sleeping? And the tradition has the master sitting behind you and knocking on your head if you kind of look sleepy.
Right.
In Taketina, it's very easy because you immediately fall out of rhythm if you are in a dream state. If you start to think, you're out of rhythm. It's like, boom, immediate. And so because the rhythm continues and takes you back and it's quite pleasurable, you're becoming more and more empty. And if I would describe a goal, it's emptiness, because emptiness is the place for me where the abundance of life resides.
Sounds like what Eckhart Tolle describes when, like...
It's funny that you bring this up, because I would say Taketina is the practice towards Tolle teaches.
Wow. Yeah, it seems to be, from the research I did. I mean, the people look like they're getting very into it. And do you think it could give you an experience comparable to maybe even hallucinogenic drugs, but without having to take it?
Yes, I mean, what you don't get is the colors that you would get with LSD or so, but you get much more. You get, if you are really hitting that absolute emptiness that in yourself, that's the most trip-like experience, you could say, but you know it's real. It's not made by a drug or by a chemical. You created the chemical in yourself. Of course, it's a chemical, it's a neurotransmitter, but you created it yourself. And that's why it is a path that you're going on. It's like every time you do this, you go deeper in, and it always is there for you to go back to. We work a lot with Taketina in clinics with people who have traumas, high traumas, and a traumatic person usually is very agitated. So it's very difficult to sit and talk. Now, when they do Taketina for some time, they go in this action and then immediately into chaos phases, then brings them into order phases. And it takes just 2 hours and they can sit completely quiet and talk. So that means they have changed their inner environment. And whenever you put something to the extreme, like you would say, therapy is really an extreme. Now, here comes when you're already out of therapy and now you go to spiritual evolution, you know, the other side. But trying this out, what happens with people who are really in need? This is so existential for them. Those are people that are haunted by themselves, you know. Is it working there? And we are using this for 25 years in clinics now.
Right. So if it works for them, it could work for anyone, right?
Yeah.
And it seems so effective is that it's in sync with the natural patterns of the universe, the chaos and the order, and the balance in between, right?
Yes, and this is why we work with primal rhythmic movement. If I would just come and play a drum rhythm for you, you could learn the drum rhythm and you could learn the drum, but that doesn't necessarily mean you become rhythm. You just learn a drum pattern. And from my experience, having studied piano and so on, and had really good teachers, but most of the people are playing a piano, but they are not becoming the music. And that's the miracle that we are so much attracted to. If a musician on stage plays and it becomes, or he or she becomes the music.
That's amazing.
There's no difference between this person and the music or one.
So how accessible, how would one go about if they're interested in this? How would one go about actually experiencing this for themselves?
Yeah, there is, we have an online section where you can do this in the everyday meditation for yourself. But then there are also courses. We have like 100, 200 people doing this. And that's an amazing time, of course. Right now, no, we don't have this right now because all Europe is in lockdown. But usually, we did the last large workshop in Frankfurt actually just a month ago. And even we had to spread out so far. There was immediately this communion between people because the fantastic thing is we are not talking about psychic things or about emotional things. They come up, but we're not focused on talking about them. And yet, after 2 sets, the people start to connect and talk about very deep things in their lives because they shared this common connection of rhythm, like
Right.
humanity. This is humanity sharing rhythm.
Right. So do you think you could have, no, do you think you could, there's a possibility of doing this online as well?
Yes, of course. You will be guided by me standing there, talking to you, rhythm going on, you doing one step, and you do the next step. And I always invite you into simultaneous perception, which means you're listening to my voice while at the same time in the background the rhythm continues. So there are already two layers there. Simultaneous perception is an amazing thing. Like there is multitasking. You've heard about it, I guess. Multitasking is just a nightmare because you have to focus on this, then you shift very fast to the other one and to the third one, whatever this is. And while you shift, you lose, of course, for a moment, contact to the first or to the second. So you're always flip-flopping with your attention, while when you go into simultaneous perception, you enter the void, you enter the emptiness between three actions, and you connect it to all three actions at the same time. So people learn right away. They do their steps, they build up one step, the next, 2, 3, 4 steps, and next rhythm comes up and the clap comes up. And while this happens, I'm constantly talking to you, which of course in the beginning can be irritating, but if you get used to this, you enter right away into a kind of meditative state, because any meditative state is you are connected to more than just one thing.
Right. What's that? What is the emptiness?
That's a good one. I guess you need to experience this. How I see it from, if there any description available to this, all thoughts that turn around and around, gone. Future, gone. Past, gone. Here and now is actually the only moment that exists in our life. And the crazy thing, if you say now and you're in linear time, by the time you say now, it's already gone. Now.
Yeah.
So at this moment, you are jumping on a standing wave. Like there's a picture, the water flows and flows and flows, but you are this wave where the water flows through. And you become emotionally completely still, mind completely still. And because of that stillness, the abundance of life can come in. One thought might come, but now it's a crystal clear thought. And you say, oh, right. I looked for that thought forever, a project, something. So that is where emptiness has its function to really bring us down to our potential.
Yeah, I mean, our true potential is all these thoughts and all this personality we build up sometimes is exactly what gets in the way of our full potential, right?
Yes, and this in Taketina or in a deep rhythm process is challenged, is again and again challenged. You try it again because you have entrained it. We've trained our mind to work like this, to jump on the next thing. And it could be fear-based, it could be drive-based, it could be anything based, but just jump, 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 jump. And when the jump, jump, jump stops, there's space. And something new comes. Something unexpected comes. Something that has been hidden so far comes.
Would you say this allows us to be more independent and free rather than vulnerable to control?
Absolutely. I think this is the most free state a human can achieve. I'm not saying rhythm is the only place to that. Shaolin Kung Fu, there's so many ways to go there. Taketina is a probably much easier way than Shaolin Kung Fu. That's really difficult. You have to practice 10 years at least, or even more, I guess. Yes, I think freedom, if I don't have thoughts where you can interfere with, if there is no trigger in me right now available for you to say, yeah, if you do this, then this comes, then I'm free because you cannot trigger me. I'm not reacting on what you say.
Yeah, so how do you think we ended up so cut off from this natural rhythm?
Well, I would say the Indian philosophy says there's a route that goes from really togetherness into complete destruction. And of course, they have names for this. Is Kali Yuga now.
Oh, yeah.
But I really think there are natural waves in life that we as a human, as humanity, have to go through to learn. So this place for me is the place, the school of polarity. Everything exists in a polarity. Man, woman, day, night, excel in anything. And it's the source of deepest pleasure and the source of deepest pain. So how can I learn to go beyond the dichotomy of polarity to become free?
And one.
Yes, and one. So I think, yes, you could say, oh, it has been so much better before or whatever. Well, there was World War II, World War One. I mean, look back, there was always something that was really crazy. And I'm not sure you will ever find the ideal state, maybe prehistory, and we don't know that. But you can find enlightenment right now. You can find the biggest happiness, bliss right now. That's
Right.
the message of Taketina.
I have this image in my mind right now. It's kind of like, perhaps like it's a spiral going up, right? So instead of it just being a circle and everything just repeats itself, things spiral up, like maybe a double helix or just a spiral. And I feel like it's not that things do cycle round, but we can come back to where we were, but in a new way, right? So we can be a more advanced society rather than living in primitive isn't, it sounds like isn't the right word, it's too judgmental, right? But like, we don't need to go back to, for example, living in caves to be in tune with nature. We can be an advanced society while being in tune with nature. Perhaps that's where we're going, because after all, surely aren't we coming to the end of Kali Yuga and towards a new golden age? That's what the Vedic philosophy seems to suggest.
Yeah, we are in a mini, like according to Indian philosophy, we're in a mini Kali Yuga that now prepares another golden age. And like, I don't know what a couple of million years then will be the complete destruction or whatever. We don't know. This is just speculation. What I like on your image is the spiral. Like you could say, there is you step in a pond, or you step in a river. Let's say in a river. You step in a river and you swim, and the river has a name. So next day you go there, you swim in the same river. It's a different water. It's not the same river. So when you go full spiral, you're not coming to the same place, but you come to a different place that's related to where you have been.
Yeah.
And so I do believe the whole technology we are just using right now, for example, what a big opportunity opening up. We can use technology to blow ourselves up. We can use technology to make people utterly enlightened and happy. It's up to us. It's another gift from the universe to say, hey, here you have this.
And we have choice.
And yeah, exactly. And we have to create the intelligence that we can do that. It's not just coming, some people just play video games, but you can also say, oh, wait a minute. We can make podcasts. We can make Zoom sessions. We can teach online. We can make motivational videos. We can make so many things that changes hundreds and thousands of people's lives.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously it's possible for games to change people's lives for the better. It comes down to, though, is it a distraction from real reality, or is it something that's helping? And that depends on how we do it. Fundamentally, anything can be done in a harmonic way or a disharmonic way, right?
Right. And what is reality? After
That's
all my experiences with shamans, I think there are a lot of realities, you know, however you look at it. It's not this one reality. That's the first thing rhythm teaches you. You know, most people mistake their opinion about life or how they used to see life as reality, which of course is trap number one, because it's strangely enough, it's a trap because it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then you create this and you're in a loop of what you think is life will repeat itself unless you step out of this loop. It's a
right.
hamster wheel. And then you're stepping out and say, oh, I don't have to do this all the time. I can do something else. And that's freedom, of course. And there is ever more steps to freedom. I believe steps we have no clue yet about. This amazing thing from this universe, or whatever you want to call it, that we get new and new challenges. And at the moment where we are, it's getting faster and faster and faster. And it's getting at the same time darker and darker and lighter.
Yeah, it seems to contradict you, doesn't it? But that's because we're looking at it in dualistic terms.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think a lot of people's reality right now is depression, is desperation because they lost their job, they have no more money, they get pulled out of their house. And so that's pretty real for them. And on the other hand, there are some people who really start to thrive now, really big. Now, I do believe our responsibility from the people who have the good luck to be able to already have some solid ground, help the others to find that too, not
Yeah.
get kind of hooked up in distraction, but find creative ways. And I do believe we will have to find creative ways, because we can't, this will not function like this. They do second lockdown, third lockdown. You know, people will say, maybe not one more. We don't do that, you know. And of course, we see lies over lies, and they get revealed. We see also realities that are so beautiful and strong. And this is the time that we are all challenged. Some people sit at home, and what has not been so functional in their lives that they could escape to the pub or to the disco or to whatever, now gets really amplified because they're locked in. Now, for me, the lockdown was one of the most creative times. I have a beautiful wife now, and we are both musicians. We are just, you know, doing all this beautiful creative work. And so we also have the, I would say, the obligation to give it on to people, to kind of do, for example, a podcast that people, it's free and people can go to it and can get inspired if they want to.
Yeah. It's a powerful new way to do things. And it's a really good thing that you came to it. So you described how people can go through a lot of negativity or difficulty, especially with COVID. But it can be the opportunity for finding something new, right? So what's the hardest experience or period in your life that you went through, and how did you get out of it?
Well, I said it already. I had a very intense divorce that was connected with a lot of blackmailing and, I mean, really, really ugly stuff. And at this time, you know, whenever you are not acting out, shooting someone or, you know, whatever, killing yourself, you get allies. One of my ally was Mark Divine, ex-Navy SEAL commander, who brought me into a SEAL training for 14 days and into also a yoga training with him, which is a martial art yoga training. And so, of course, back then, ownership was coming into my life big time. It's me who created this situation.
Oh, yeah, that's familiar.
Once you know that, it's much easier to step out of it. And that made me actually step out of it and find my most beautiful wife right now. And this was one thing, but also, get into your body. Because if you don't, see, depressive people sit at home, and one way to get them really fast out of it is, come on, let's run. You run with them in the fresh air a little bit, and already you have an effect. Why is that? Because the vagus nerve gets stimulated. Now, Taketina, we have done a 10-year study, research study, on how Taketina stimulates the vagus nerve. And this is one of the biggest things, because the vagus nerve is the answer to the tsunami of depression that's coming up right now. If you're able to stimulate your vagus nerve and the heart rate variability starts to improve, there is hardly any room for depression. So with the vagus nerve study that we did, this was really the beginning of many other studies in depression and also how the brain works together. And this was very interesting to see what rhythm immediately does in your brain waves, in your heart rate variability, and really gives you tools to get out of difficult situations. Now, if you go out the door and you're in fresh air and nature, and you just take 10 minutes, deep breath in, deep breath out, that already stimulates your vagus nerve and calms you down.
But if you're exercising at the same time as doing rhythmic music.
Yeah, of course. Now this is an upgrade then. And so, of course, we said it wouldn't last so long. We have now research results that show that even 6 months after the training we did, we have still a very high flaming, which means high states of vagal tonus activity. We call this vagal tonus is when you are in the optimal state of your heart rate variability. And if you don't have vagal tonus states in your night at all, you feel really exhausted in the morning. So that's also connected to good sleep. It's also connected, and good sleep, of course, is connected to well-being.
And this is physical well-being too, right?
Yes, of course. If you haven't slept for a month, your life looks different than you have slept well.
So would you say that this, rather than healing you directly, allows your body and mind to heal itself better?
What means directly?
Sorry?
What means directly? You say heal directly. What is heal directly?
So does Taketina heal you, or does it allow you to heal you?
It does allow you to heal you. I don't think there's anything like someone comes and says, I heal you. No, you always have to be, no matter how good the shaman, the doctor, whoever is. If you resist healing, no one can heal you. No one. You are your own therapist. You are your own physicist. You are in this power place. No one can override you. Right. They can cope with like symptoms. If you have pain, they give you an injection that will go away because chemical works, but chemical stops to work, you get back to pain. We've worked an extensive time with really high pain patients. And so what we did actually is we used morphine to cut. I mean, this was together with a huge panel of doctors. They used morphine for this patient group to cut the firing of the neurons so they could stop the pain for that moment. And then we came with Taketina and put in in this window, this was pain-free. So that's how really modern medicine can beautifully work together with alternative ways of healing.
So there is a pain frequency and you change the rhythm to something else.
No, if you have, there are people who have pain in a leg they don't have anymore. That's amazing. I've seen that. There's someone who has only one leg, but he has high pain on the leg that doesn't exist anymore because the neurons are firing and firing and firing and telling this person he has a leg that has pain. For me, this was amazing to see and to learn. So when you cut that firing for a moment, then the benefit of the holistic approach of Taketina can come in. If you work against this incredible pain, many times unbearable pain, it's very difficult to even listen to someone. You need a window where you can take something in to use beneficial.
I suppose we're all connected, right? And if you work with that connection, the healing process is more effective. Now, even with spiritual healing that people talk about, energy healing, it's considered that with the chakras, for example, it's considered that like on the level of the heart chakra healing, when it's a two-way process, it's much more effective than if it's below that level, like yellow ray chakra healing, where one person does it, another person just receives it. Mm-hmm. And I know it might not, I don't know if it's familiar to you, but it seems to line up to me.
No, it's not familiar to me, but what comes up to me is like there is some therapies that work with people lying down and music. That's okay if you are in coma or if you can't move at all. But if you are able to move, if you are part of the healing, if a leader can engage you in the healing process, that's such a strong empowerment that works already in two ways. You get the healing process through the rhythm, but you're also getting stronger as you are motivated to be your own leader. And that stays once you are, and it's all coming down to ownership in very different realms. Like if I know I can change that, that's empowering, and that brings you away from frustration, and frustration goes into desperation, you know?
Right.
And it all comes down, look, when we come to this planet, and it went pretty well in the pregnancy, let's say, you are curious, empty, and now when we can keep a child at this place through various things, instead of filling this child up with this and that and this and that, and over activating this child, also not under activating, but really stimulating what needs to be stimulated and keep all the unnecessary stress out, then this person, as the child grows into a person, has a very good chance to have a place of emptiness that is his point of return, to rejuvenate, to empower. Whereas if you have stress at home, there's screaming, there's always this kind of, and then you put, because you don't want to have your kids around, so you put them in front of your TV or whatever, they fill up, fill up, fill up. Now then you have all of a sudden a petri dish of things like anxiety, arousement, fear that turns into rage, into anger, into desperation, into depression, and all of that. So the emptiness, if we can right early on engage in that And I have accompanied a lot of pregnant women through the birthing process with rhythm. If you are coming to this world in peace, if you are getting all the necessary love, connection, and peace and emptiness, you have a different start into your world.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a really healthy, happy way to grow up. And it seems that we haven't, a lot of people, especially the last two generations, haven't really had that so much at all.
No,
And no wonder we've got so much division and conflict and mental health issues. And this year, even if you ignore Corona, there's been so much strife, right? Especially in America. And I feel like that's at least partly explained by the lack of connection to rhythm and nature, right? What do you think?
I think it all starts when you take your compulsive thinking for reality. I can tell you there are 200 genders, there are five genders, and you can believe me or not. It's all that kind of, compulsive thinking makes you crazy. And it seems like engaging over the last years in compulsive thinking, having always a new things. Now, if you look at the things happening in the US, there are some parents, then they separate, and there is a girl that's 5 years old that's actually forced by the mother or father, whatever, who is with her, to become a boy. And it's all mental things. Why not
Right.
letting nature work? Why not giving rhythm and emptiness to these people to empower them to make their own choices
Right.
and
So,
let them grow to the point where they can make them?
yeah, I suppose the issue is that people aren't, that it doesn't, it gets in the way of people making their own choices, not that those choices are inherently flawed. And I suppose even on any side of politics or what have you, that it affects people when we're out of sync with nature,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Because even if you look at organized religion, like perhaps that's been out of sync with nature too. And in every aspect of our society, it seems like everything's got out of sync.
Yes, but I still believe it is like when you get into compulsive thinking, it always becomes crazy. Second thing, if you are primed to reactivity,
Right.
you go crazy because I find the button that triggers your reactivity, so I can manipulate you. I just say a word, and you go like whoa, and say another word, and you go whoa. So you're at my mercy. I just press a button, and if that is cut, I can press your buttons, so you're free. You can say, "What do you mean by that?" If we would go see,
How
this
could
is
you say that?
that's what really makes me attracted to Brian's approach. He really endorses not only free speech, but the power, the beauty of disagreeing in harmony.
Could
You
you
have
clarify who you're talking to
to Brian
the
Rose.
listener? Brian
When,
Rose, yes.
yeah, when I had, when I saw his podcast, that's what really brought me into this podcast training, really, that said, okay, uh, I like that. This is not just one opinion. This is not just this is how it's right and it has to be like this and everything else is silenced. And this is increasingly how it goes right now. But he invites, and I will do this too, an abundance of different approaches that can both be there and don't have to fight each other.
Yeah, that's a key thing. And it's really important at a time like this. You know, another key thing, we've touched on it a bit, is Corona, right? And how do you think Taketina would be helpful at this time?
Well, I can only tell you my part of the story, my side of the story. It's just my opinion, okay? I really don't think Corona is anything else but a flu that we always had. That's my opinion. I'm 70 years old. I will go into every hospital without a mask, and I'm not afraid, and I won't get it.
I admire that.
So no, because what they do is the opposite of what is right. If I tell a kid, don't touch the floor, wash your hands 20 times a day, what do? You bring down the immune system. And the only thing that can help you in anything that is a virus or a bacteria is a strong immune system. And the immune system is connected to resilience. Resilience in mind, in emotions, in the body. Now, if you have that, you bring in every challenge like a virus, no problem. Yeah, I had sometimes a disease. So what? Everyone gets that. That's not a big thing. I do believe we have, of course, we have to take that thing seriously in a way that it exists. It's completely nonsense to deny that it exists. However, what we do with it is potentially so much more harm. So many people actually committing suicide because they have no way to go. They get so depressed, they have no more work. And the economy going down, that's really a problem. And so I think what Taketina can do right now is not telling you Corona is good or bad, or you should do this or you should do that, but there is a place where you can recharge. There's a place where you can recharge. And I invite you to get back this incredible memory of we've got this life. This is a gift. We can breathe. Light is there, gratitude. That's my first thing. I get up, I'm happy, I'm grateful. I drink water, I go out and take the air in and start my day.
Sounds pretty good. So here's an issue. What do you think of the effect of devices, all modern technology, and the frequencies they emit, and how that affects health?
What devices would you refer to here?
Well, I mean, it could be computers, it could be Wi-Fi, it could be mobile phones.
Yes, I think that there's pretty much the same picture like with bacteria and viruses. In us, there is an abundance of viruses and bacteria. And we also get them in the communication with other people, and we get them when they touch the soil, when we get dirty, yeah? So there is one way to have a right amount of exposure to it, yeah? If you jump into a dumping place full of dirt and, faces, I don't think that boosts your immune system. That would kind of set you up for a problem. So it's the same here. I think we have to grow. We cannot. There's no way we can avoid the computer radiation, even this, everything around me here is doing some radiation now, technical radiation, yeah? I have Wi-Fi, otherwise we couldn't even talk. So that's a radiation. And I think there is a certain amount we need to get immune to. Our body needs to gear up and say, okay, I can cope with that. However, I do think that there are some things that I shouldn't say on your podcast because I don't want to have it censored.
Okay.
There are certain frequencies that really can harm you. I mean, kill you. Take a laser weapon, boom, you're dead. So this is not like, oh, I can take everything, just put a laser gun at me and I will stay there. No, there are some things that the body cannot take. But I do believe that there's also another amount where we have to get used to and cope with it. Get so strong, in your immune system gets so strong in how you go about, in your mental, physical, and emotional, that this doesn't bother you. It's my approach.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm wondering then, isn't the role of what we eat and medicine like
Mm.
in affecting maybe how effective our bodies are at being resilient to these frequencies?
I don't think that, again, there's a right or wrong way to eat. If you say, well, you are vegetarian, then someone else comes to, no, no, I'm a meat eater. And then someone says, I'm a vegan. I would tell to all the three, even in your niche, you can choose healthy or horrible. It's it's not a new thing to say. Well, if you go to McDonald's all every day, if you just eat your uh, kind of sweets every day, no, it will be not healthy for you. You cannot even turn it around. This will not, fast food will never be healthy for you. But then I think find the right nutrition for you, and that can be changing over time. And that also means make your body, your mind sensitive enough to know what's good. So, you know, most of the people get obese because they just slice things in without even recognizing what they do. And the body says, whoop, 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 and they, fat grows. If you know what you're taking in, you can eat a Sachertorte or a strudel. Not every day, but you can have it if you are wanting it, you know? So I don't think that strict recipe will work because, again, it puts stress on your mind. But you learn to navigate and let the body tell you, hey, this wasn't so good what you did. Let's not do this again. And this could be a good way. And so you can be in a constant learning process what your body wants, what your emotions need, and what your mind can detect to make it really good for your body.
And that's more natural, right?
Yes, I do think so. More natural than I tell you, this is the right way because, 50% at least will say, no, 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 no. And then we are again in polarization.
Yeah, and that doesn't really help. So
Nope.
I'm curious about something. What was your experience with shamans like?
Well, there's a lot of talk about shamans. I was lucky enough to travel a lot from the very beginning. So the shamans I had contact with were Korean shamans. And very few people know that in Korea there's a thousands of year old tradition of the mudang. This was way before there was North and South Korea. It's actually coming down from Siberia into the Korean peninsula, And this was is a very strong shamanic tradition. And there are different branches. Even now in South Korea, there is the Gyeonggi Dodangut and the Sikkim Gut, and they have different names. And I was studying with a shaman for 2 years, traveling with him in Korea. And what I've seen is pretty amazing. For example, there's no fish anymore in this coast. And so we go there and we do the ceremony, 3 days, blah, blah, blah. Boom, there's fish. It's like calling these energies in. And then I have been probably the first person on earth to work with Aboriginal people in Australia in a Western kind of like in Taketina. This was a big process, like I have a student who works with them for 20 years and he told them again and again, and it was like years of setting up. And then I went to Alice Springs and they came and they danced around it, the first day. They did like 3 hours and then they went all of a sudden out, everyone out. And they were sitting there and discussing, da, 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 da. I say, okay, maybe that's not for them. And they came back and said, that's good. And so they decided to do it. And it was an amazing experience because Aboriginal culture is really very far from what we ever know. Like when they get initiated, they knock their first tooth out. Yeah, bam, every adult, vesh. Or if you have done something wrong in this tribe, you will get a person who throws a spear at you in front of everyone. Now, that might or might not kill you, but this person who throws the spear will sit with you and guide you through this, that you might survive or not survive. It's really something I've learned that is kind of blowing your mind. And they have spiritual powers that they realize in the body that is unprecedented. I've never seen that before. They can run for hundreds of miles in the desert, which is physically impossible. So there's a lot of those superhuman powers that can come out of this. For me, I learned from them a way of going out what they call the dreaming, which is basically the subtle field that, you know, we have a physical field, then we have an emotion, then we have also some say an aura.
Quantum field, perhaps?
Yeah. But for them, it goes much further and they have this kind of the spirit field, the spirit body. And I've been initiated into this. And actually the craziest thing that I have to say is when I do this every day and it manifests whatever I need in my life.
What do you do?
I go out in the dreaming, I bring it in and I get it.
A meditation, a form of meditation?
No, it's a very, very precise form of inner visualization that you do together with your totem. You have to be able to connect with a totem. You have to be able to connect with a very clear, constant flow of inner visualization. That means if you break that and you start to sink, it's gone.
So how do you discover your totem, and how do you get yourself in a position where you can do this?
Well, as always, only, in my opinion, only a teacher like a shaman there can guide you through your totem. I mean, you can imagine a totem. Oh, I'm a raven. I'm this. I'm that. And maybe for some people that helps too. I'm not, making this down, but on this very fundamental level where you want results, really results, effective results of anything you want to have. I think my beautiful wife came to me through the dreaming. I was calling her through the dreaming. I was calling, I want really, please bring this in. And so it's not wishful thinking, but it's a very precise way you connect with the cosmos, the earth, bringing this together and you building your dreaming body and then go out with the totem out and the totem guides you. And what you have to have is a very, very intense ability of presence that doesn't break. Because if you break the presence and you start to sink, everything you've done is gone. So you have to be able to maintain it 2-3 hours.
So it sounds like at the very least, Taketina could help someone get able to do that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Look, Taketina came in my life because as a kid, I had asthma, had arrhythmia, and depression. My young age was a nightmare. I was a kind of child of prodigy on piano, but my life was a nightmare because it was always suffering. And so right now, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm a diver. I jump out of airplanes. Coming out, all of these things, the Taketina has brought me there. So that is why I think that Taketina has helped thousands of people. We have counted it now, it's 50 years of Taketina. So we are close to 1 million people who have kind of experienced Taketina in one or the other way.
Well, That's a lot of people. So, Taketina. So, what's the meaning of each of those sounds?
The great thing, there is no meaning. Because it would give you just another crazy. So look, if you see t, it's here in the teeth, right? T, ta. Now you go to k, you go here to your throat. T, k, T again and na up. So the movement is forward, backward, forward, and up. So the way you would conduct a 4-beat, you are already doing a 4-beat cycle with your vocal cords without even knowing it. So it entrains already. Or ga, ma, la, it's throat, lips, and up. So it's already entraining that rhythm in you on a very subtle level. Because
I like that. It's just simply naming it is training.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah, I thought it's better than Flatischler method.
Yeah, so I would like to ask you tough questions, really challenging questions, but it's just I like what you do so much that I can't. Or at least I haven't thought of something yet. So why is mega drums called mega drums?
Well, there's another story behind it. I was invited to a festival in India that was called Tal Vadya Utsav, and there were all people in the whole world, Chinese groups, Korean groups, Uganda groups, were invited. And the only 2 people who were soloists were Babatunde Olatunji, great African drummer, doesn't live anymore right now, unfortunately, who initiated actually Santana. And I was invited. So we were there. And there was all day long these incredible concerts with these very complex structures of the people, like Malaysia different and Uganda different, and and then in the evening we were in the hotel, and each floor had these sounds, and then people came together. But whenever they came together, the complexity went down to boom, 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 boom. I said, so what's happening here? And so with that, I now think, is there some code where I can invite an African drummer, Aja Adi, I can invite Samuel Nori from Korea, and I can compose something where they can find a common language together and play with me. This was the idea of mega drums. I could have called it anything else, but it was a catchy name at this time, and we had huge success, 15 years of touring through booked out halls. And it actually united some of the greatest drummers of our world. Ayrton Moreira, godfather of percussion, played with Miles Davis, played with Chick Corea, these things. Then we have Saki Hussein, the best tabla player, is the son of Ala Raka, who played with Ravi Shankar. So he was in my band. And Kodo, you have heard probably about these big drums of Japan, the Kodo drummers. So Leonard Ato was there, and all these drummers together. So I just called mega drums because it's so many great drummers. It's my answer to it.
Well, I mean, unity is important, and if you got people together from all these different cultures and, well, unified, that to me that's valuable because, well, it's from ideology to unity. That's my podcast.
Yeah, I know. This is why this is one of the reasons why I said yes, because that's a subject I'm interested in. Yeah, we made 8 great albums that have been best-selling albums, and I'm certainly will revive mega drums in the near future too, because now I'm just in the symphonic projects, but I think mega drums was such a great thing because it brought this incredible, they never came together ever. There's one similar project called Planet Drums from Mickey Hart, which has similar drummers, but he didn't compose it. He just let the people play. Whereas mega drums was all based on composition with free space where they can do whatever they want to, but then they come back to a composition.
You know, when you mentioned though these in Taketina, there are these different layers through the movement and the chanting and the the different sounds, and it reminded me of binaural beats and isotropic tones. Have you heard of those?
Yes, but it's for binaural beats you need a headphone, right? So it's actually the same principle, but you do it with your body. You have three different layers of movement coming together, and
right.
I would say the real art of a Taketina teacher is to bring people who have no training in music or in rhythm or anything in 3 days into a state where they can experience a full-blown, very complex polyrhythm, and they know this could not be kind of a linear learning or a trick. They know they have accessed some deeper knowledge within themselves.
Wow. And we all have that. So that's what really makes a difference. So there's something that I feel that has something in common with what you do. And actually, it's a quote from Nikola Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What do you think about that?
Hits the nail on the top, of course. That's another version of saying everything is rhythm. That's what I said a little bit before. It's just another way of saying, because you see, if I say rhythm, I mean pulse. Just like this. If you speed that up, you have a tone. If you speed it up, you have light. If you speed it up, you have all these oscillations of the particles, you know. If you slow it down, you get to the planetary movements. And, you know, it's this everything comprising. And that's, I think, what Tesla points to, that this is the main power in life.
Perhaps with, well, he said how to understand it. Perhaps Taketina allows you to be it.
Yes, of course. But I think that Tesla also means not just understand with the brain, understand on a deeper level. Yeah.
Right. Well, I feel like we've pretty much covered everything. Well, not everything, obviously, but is there anything else you want to add to really sum up what you're about and what Taketina has to offer?
I think there are two things that it really has to offer. One is bliss, and bliss is happiness without reason. Like if you just won the lottery, some people are happy, but then it dies off when the money goes out again. No, you go and you look out the window and you're profoundly happy. That's I learned with Taketina. And what I also learned is to access this empty space that allows me to do anything I want, because out of this, there's no reactivity, there is no fear, there is no any of this kind of compulsive stuff around, maybe thinking or emotional explosion or any of that. And that's not only a point of really deep powers, but it's also freedom, because you cannot be triggered by someone else. And that's why you can be here. And that's one of my deep passion, to be there for other people. It makes me utterly happy to help other people, to see how they evolve. You know, all my students, when they evolve, that gives me such a deep pleasure, such a deep, really feeling of that is right. That's how it should be. Yeah, so this is basically what I would say to it.
Well, this was a fascinating interview. It is good to get to know you a bit and to learn about Taketina. And I'm sure that the listener probably enjoyed it too. So Well, goodbye, Reinhard. It was
Okay.
a very good interview. So,
Thank you very much. Okay. Have a great time and good luck with your podcast.
all right. Thank you. Bye.